nuclear families for children in those families to the state, who then gives $50 of that money back into the household and splits that $125 profit. They've just stolen candy from a baby, right? That $125 they stole from that nuclear family, calling it child support. Well, the supposed county child support agency runs interviews with the media calling themselves a self-supporting agency. How are they self-supporting if they're stealing money that my children need for school uniforms, that my children need for nutrition, for food, their dues for extracurricular activities? And they steal it out of my house every month and give it to Conduent Corporation, an international mafia whose number one claim to fame is being the number one child support collector in the United States of America. They do this to 37% of low-income nuclear families. Just steal money right from the children. You know, the other thing about that is, when you're stealing that kind of money, that means the parents have to work that much harder. That means the parents are at home that much less. That means you have teenagers and children with that much less parenting out on the streets running gangs. Because of you, the California State Legislature, and these draconian, insane laws that you pass. Now, you remember when I talked earlier about, Holocaust deniers and all of that being, something we need to stop, okay? Because you can't just throw that out there, okay? But here's something. We're at the level of throwing this out there. Because that's the level at which the California State Legislature is operating. Especially with the last anecdote I just offered. True story, true anecdote. You've sued me 3 times, okay? 3 different counties that we lived in over the years. Nuclear, intact family, okay? I was my children's 5th father. That's right. There was a 4th child 3 years before I got the job of being my children's 5th father, okay? I paid for that burial. I bought the headstone, and you're coming after me. Sending letters to my job, calling me an absentee non-custodial parent while you're serving me at the same address me and the children live at. To where you actually got me fired from one of my jobs for moral turpitude because my employer wouldn't believe the government was doing what I was trying to explain to him they were doing. And it was your law, California State Legislature. Every unwed father in the state of California, every father who's too poor to get married, you're going to sue them for child support. Rip off $125 a head. It's abhorrent. You are the state legislature which banned public transportation agencies, public transit agencies, public busing. You banned them about 20 years back. Look it up. You did it, California State Legislature. You then began diverting federal busing funding money. Federal money that was intended to go to buses to get kids to and from school, to get grandma to and from the grocery store. To get those kids in Gilroy to Gilroy Gardens and back. So they've got some wholesome activity to do. Heck, you can get a season's pass for, handful of 20s. And they could go there every day, all day, instead of being in a gang. But that's not where you apparently want them, California State Legislature, because you won't force Santa Clara County to give them a bus, because they have no accountability, because you banned busing authorities. Instead, you force them to create these regional congestion management agencies. So now guess where our federal bus money goes? Red lights on freeway on-ramps. There's no cross-traffic there. That is a misuse of the traffic light system. There's no cross-traffic. That is just throwing good money out the window. Sidewalks along expressways. Expressways were never meant to be pedestrian ways. I urge you to honor the founding fathers of our nation and put the brakes on reckless, out-of-control jumps to completely change an entire classification of workers. That is an enormous leap. It's a huge classification. All contractors are no longer contractors. It is so large, I'll tell you what it equates to. It equates to Mao and his desire, his legitimate desire, insane, but legitimate desire for all persons to be equal and receive an equal distribution. So we moved everyone into cities where that could easily be accomplished. Well, guess what? That took away all the farmers and everyone starved to death. That's the kind of overreach that you're making here. No different than the overreach when Stalin looked around and said, hey, look, we're starving in the cities. What we need to do is round up all undesirables. I've got a quota for you of the number of people we need to get out into the Siberian region and reap those natural resources and get them back in here. So they rounded up all sorts of people. People even Stalin didn't originally intend to get rounded up just to meet their quota. Sent them out into these barren regions with no training, no supplies, no provisions. They mutinied and turned to cannibalism. And it was because it was an overreach. And that's where you're at right now, California State Legislature. The market itself will reform. Any necessary changes. And if it is as bad as you want us to believe, drivers would walk away and take any of these other jobs abundantly posted as available everywhere. Please, when you go home today, get some groceries, go out to dinner, and count all the help wanted signs you see. Look for them. They're there. They're everywhere. And then cut this nonsense out with AB5 and all of this. Everything was fine the way it was. There was never an issue except that you have got some crazy lawyers out there, out of control, just running around, creating amok, running amok. Dynamex was to show you that we need tort reform. That's what you were supposed to see from Dynamex. So, go see all those help wanted signs and realize the market will correct if anything needs to be corrected. You don't need to save anybody here. There's nothing to save. Let the adults get back to earning a living in a free market, in a free country. Okay? Have some respect for the Constitution, for what our country, in words at least, is written to stand for. Have some respect. Have some respect for protesting in the streets. It ought to mean something. The farm workers, their protest, it was about something. I mean, they were raped and brutalized and vilified and sprayed with poison. They died in the heat with no water, no breaks, no rest periods, no shade. And you're going to allow these punks to come along and garner equal or better attention from you? Have some respect for yourselves. I mean, Dolores Huerta wasn't allowed to protest the way these fools are. Literally. The police saw her. They recognized her. They hunted her down and sought to slaughter her. And today we've got a holiday for Caesar. And it may as well, it should include Dolores. Have some respect for your country, for your nation. This is not a time, this is not a place, this is not an issue for the California State Legislature. Any and all of these gripes are all internal Uber matters which will resolve themselves. Because if they don't, just like with Sidecar, someone else will come along. The market will correct it. But if you get involved now, you'll kill a healthy, living thing that millions of us are benefiting from. Not just drivers, but riders. Again, look up the Unstoppable Tracy. Look her up. She mountain climbs. She's in competitive sailing. Look her up. Look at why she's such a strong believer in Uber. Uber Assist, and what this dream Travis Kalanick has to offer. This dream that I urge you to support Rachel Holt now, to take the torch and carry on. Because they were drivers, they understood everything we're going through out here. Travis drove, Rachel drove. They know what the changes that need to be made are to take best care of us. They have nothing to do with the law. They have nothing to do with the state legislature. They have nothing to do with pay. They have everything to do with the system being allowed to correct itself according to the market, the technology, and the efficiency of, marrying people into that. Please, California, let us just get back to work. Let's stop this insanity. The lesson of Dynamex was we need tort reform. You go hog tie those lawyers. And you let Uber, rideshare, DoorDash, Grubhub, you let all of us get back to work, if you would, please. I mean, you go look at those food delivery services. Can you imagine having to work and pay for childcare? No, you can't. You're afraid of gangs, right? Okay? Well, then leave us alone, Let a parent have the kind of job where they're out there delivering food. And independent contract, they can bend the rule just a little bit to where they can have their kids with them while they're out there earning a living, providing a great service. That's what you're trampling on. You're trampling on freedom itself. I meant to go to work a few hours ago. I actually meant to go to work a few hours before that, Actually, I meant to go to work. Now it's getting close to about 16 hours ago. But you know what? I got a call from my landlord. And she said, look, this camera system we've been talking about setting up at the property, I just dropped off the DVR, Just put it on your old clunker out there. I went out, looked at it, missing a power supply. It's got no cameras. Looked it up, printed out the owner's manual for it. It's an older DVR, but it's a 1 terabyte. It's going to hold a lot more than my DVR now, which holds 3 days, got 4 cameras. This other one here she just dropped off got 16 camera plugins, right? You know what? I farted around with that a little while. A couple of my neighbors come by, talk about this, talk about that. We figure out some other things going on. I had another video I was trying to upload, right? It has to do with the retail experience. Something I wanted to share with those of us that enjoy this particular retail situation that's going through some turbulence. And I found an alternate vendor, that not a lot of people know is out there. And, I put together a great video. It's taken forever to upload on YouTube. It's going to be quicker than this one is going to be. But hey, there were other things on my to-do list. And I worked on those instead. No big deal. No big deal. Who cares? Doesn't really matter. You know what? I'm tired of being stuck in the car so much anyway. That's what I'm talking about. Total freedom. You see any of these bad experiences, and a lot of times the drivers cause them. I mean, you don't cuss at somebody in your car. I mean, who gets in your car? Friends and family, right? It's no different than your living room. So if you're going to treat somebody badly who's in your living room, you're going to have an issue. You're going to have a problem. And it's going to weigh on you. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you just get a jerk get in your car and they just rub you the wrong way. But, I mean, you don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is, right? But still, you might feel like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the day off. And you can do that. So that when you go back, they got this rating system, right? So we're supposed to get 5 stars on every ride. You got to be fresh and chipper. You got to be up to entertaining people. So, it's like that, My last job, there was this guy who liked to chase me with a hammer all the time. And, it really bothered me. I mean, I knew the guy wasn't going to hit me with the hammer. But, you know what? At the same token, I was tired of it. I didn't want to be chased with a hammer anymore. So, I did what I thought was reasonable, rational, Let the guy know, look, if you chase me with a hammer, the police are going to come out and things might not work out the way that you want them to. I got written up because my boss didn't want to get a complaint. Well, guess what? When a guy chases me with a hammer and I stand up for myself, you're going to get a complaint, sir. And you know what? That is what you sold the customer. You sold the customer me out there conducting field enforcement of private policy that people don't want to adhere to. And this particular guy, his response is to pick up a hammer. Well, I tell you what. I had to go back the next night, and I couldn't do it. I wasn't going back. And that's where this whole thing with the contractor, it's whatever you want it to be. If you want to work 7 days a week, if your kid just totaled their car and you got to help your kid right back getting a set of wheels before they can't make their rent, before they can't make their insurance payment, before they can't pay their daycare payment, you can work 7 days a week and you can help your kid with that money. And you know what? If you're feeling like, oh my God, I just put on 10 more pounds, this week I really got to focus on getting my head straight and starting to exercise and working on getting this diet started, getting myself getting that shopping trip done that's going to start this diet, getting to see that particular specialist that's going to And yeah, I drive Uber and I have health insurance, and every Uber driver could have it. And they wouldn't know how if they had 2 cents to rub together. I mean, if they just had 2 cents, you know. But that's what I'm making this video about, is just to make it abundantly clear. You're dealing with a group of people making a lot of noise. No different than a chihuahua or a parrot or any other thing that makes noise without rationale. So do the right thing, would you please? Because I love this job just the way it is. It is incredible. And again, I hope you haven't already forgotten, but I spent my early 20s in the law library, in the labor law section, okay? And put that to good use. I'm your canary in the coal mine, and I'm telling you, ain't nothing to fix at Uber. Ain't nothing broken. You can move on to something else. Okay? Please, pass a resolution to get bus service to Gilroy Gardens so the children in Gilroy have an option other than hanging out with a gang. Okay? Do some good work like that. Please.